Hey everyone, Dr. H here, your friendly war game guy at the Air Command Staff College, and I want to talk about a few of the things that make the Korea Peninsula very special. Um, Obviously, the place to start is going to be with the DMZ. The DMZ is world famous. It is the world's most fortified border, and it's specially represented in the game on both sides. You can see from the fortification with the special +2 in it. Thing about the DMZ is this: one, it counts as a fortification hex for any unit that happens to be in there. Two, it uh, costs an additional 1 MP for the opposite side to move into on the first turn. And second, defenders get an additional DRM to defend it. It's part of the adjudicator, both the fortification and the additional DRM are part of the adjudicator. Don't worry about it too much. But be aware, right? Attacking into the EMZ is going to be dangerous. If I come up to the top of the map, and this is very similar at the bottom of the map, there are some holding boxes here, right? There's a special holding box. Some units are going to start in that box, and you can see that there's this line connecting it over, and it has a number of hexes underneath it. Lines at connect hexes at the edge of the map represent ways to move sort of off the map between the two hexes, and the number of hexes listed is the number of primary road hexes in between those spots. So if you want to move between those two hexes and you want to move off road, off map rather than on map, you can take that road that exists off map. This is on both the north side, and then if you come down here, right, to the south side, you'll see that there's a similar set of lines, right, that describe distances between hexes off map if you wanted to travel on the roads off the map. That's cool. I'd like to also take a minute to talk about some special sorts of units. I'd like to start with combat outposts. Combat outposts are, both sides have them. I just happen to have a DPRK one out here. You'll note that they count as a ground unit, but the only value they have is 2 for the defense and a 5 on the on your efficiency rating. So obviously they can't attack, they can't move, they just defend. You'll notice they have a fortification symbol, so the hex they're in counts as fortified. If it's not, even if it's not, that's cool. But generally speaking, combat outposts are ground units. They need to be destroyed. They have no stacking value, so you can stack up combat. You can stack up those units to your heart's content. Another unit that I want to just point out here that's special is the DPRK sniper unit. It has its own special unit symbol, so that you can be able to identify them. It has its own special NATO symbol. Those units can move inherently by your mobile movements or by leg movements, one of the two. They have their own inherent helicopter force of Me-2 hoplites from the 60s. Good time. But we're going to show that they had that helicopter transport by allowing them to move on their own air mobile transport, just like the 101st Airborne Division. Similarly, we have reserve units, right? So reserve units, there are 4 types. You can look at the rules more closely to know what types they are. That's okay. And they're going to be randomly selected. You'll note that each one has a hex that it appears in when it's drawn. You'll be directed to draw them if you're going to use them in the game. You'll be directed to draw a certain number every turn, or turn 1 draw this many, turn 4 draw this many. So they go in that hex, and note they go in that hex even that hex is enemy controlled. So they can appear in enemy controlled hexes. The reason that it's sort of brought up randomly is nobody really knows how long or how specifically any mobilization will occur, and we're simulating this by just drawing them randomly and having them appear randomly. There are headquarters units, and some of these units are subordinate too. So if you draw a unit and it doesn't have a headquarters, you can put the headquarters on the board as well. So another thing to be aware of is that the DPRK has chemical weapons, and the DPRK can throw chemical weapons support on the board. It has a number of column shifts listed in the. It'll give you a number of column shifts in your favor listed in the adjudicator. So be aware that can happen. It costs 1 chemical point to drop 1 point of support, and the marker stays on the board until the reorganization phase of the turn. Any unit trying to enter a hex that is a non-US leg unit takes all of the movement, so it can only move into that hex, and a non-US motorized or mechanized unit spends additional 2 MP to move into that unit. Move into that hex, I should say. So chems will give you an advantage in combat and then affect movement afterwards, unless you're moving a US unit, in which case it just flat doesn't care. The final thing to consider here is the tunnel. Tunnel markers are placed by the DPRK. This will give you an advantage in combat. So you place the tunnel marker in the hex where the combat's going to take place, and then the hexes adjacent to it. 2 of the hexes adjacent to it now have a stacking limit. Can stack up to 6 points without being overstacked instead of 4, which is cool. And there are a couple of other advantages you may want to check the rules for, but those are the 2 big ones, right? So this represents obviously tunneling under the DMZ that we don't really know that much about. There is more in the realm of classified because of how it's going to be detected, so you just get to decide where they come up if you're the DPRK. So anyway, this covers most of the spins for South Korea, for Korea. Special units, special parts of the map. Be sure to check the rule book. These are mostly highlights. There are a couple of other little things you may pick up by checking the rules. But for now, that's my story and I'm sticking to it, and good luck in Korea.